Hello, my name is Shikha Kapoor, Assistant Professor Fashion Design, School of Design, Avantika University. Today we are going to learn about fashion forecasting. Fashion used to come from one source at a time, be it the street, the runway, or the entertainment business. The interesting thing about today is that influences come from high and low, everything from couture to Target. This was said by Michael Kors, the renowned fashion designer. So, a forecast. We are talking about the future. A forecast is an estimate of what is going to happen in the future. Fashion forecasting is the process of predicting future trends in the fashion industry. It is not just about predicting what colors or styles are or going to be, but understanding consumer behavior, cultural shifts, and economic influences also. So, fashion forecasters are like the astrologers of the fashion industry. So, we are talking about fashion forecasting, right? This is about anticipating the trends. It is basically a journey into the future of fashion. It is more than just attending runway shows and picking out potential trends that can be knocked off at lower prices. But it is much more than that. It is a very huge process that spans through many variables, as we spoke about the styles and colors and their shifts that are going to be in the future, changes in lifestyles and buying patterns of the consumers or the target market, different ways of doing business also, because it's not only the consumer which will benefit from the forecast, but it is also going to be the businesses. In fashion forecasting, we are talking about anticipating trends. It is a journey into the future of fashion. It is more than just attending runway shows and picking out potential trends that can be knocked off at lower prices. It is a very huge process which spans through many variables, shifts in colors and styles that are going to be in the future, changes in the lifestyles and buying patterns of consumers, different ways of doing business. Because it is not only the consumers we are predicting for the businesses and their benefit also. What appears to be a near random activity is in fact a process of negotiation between the fashion industry, the consumers, and the segments in the supply chain of the fashion industry, the allied businesses of the fashion industry also. Because once we forecast, the products are to be created based on the patterns of the forecasting only. Here we are talking about the fashion trends. That forecasting is about predicting the fashion trends. So first we need to understand what a fashion trend is. A fashion trend is a popular style of clothing and accessories at a particular moment in time. There are two types of fashion trends, micro trends and macro trends. The micro trends cycle in and out of fashion within a matter of few months or years. For example, sunglasses and high-waist denim. Whereas the macro trends, they last for a longer period of time and they change at a longer period of time. They have more to do with the lifestyle and demographic changes than the latest fashion designs. For example, the ripped jeans and basic t-shirts, which have become a part of the lifestyle only. So, when we talk about forecasting, we need to identify certain things, because forecasting is for 1 to 2 years to a longer period of time, that is up to 10 years. So what should we identify? So it is the source, that is the influences that will happen in the future, the underlying patterns that will affect the direction, and the tempo, that is the speed with which the patterns are going to be accepted or rejected. Forecasting attempts to project past trends into the future, anticipating future developments for signals of change in current situations. Forecasting attempts to project past trends into the future, anticipating future developments by watching for signals of change in current situations. The forecasters continuously keep an eye on the changes in the cultural, economic, and the social and the environmental areas also. That the forecasting is about the micro and the macro trends. The micro trends, we said, last for a shorter period of time and have a shorter life cycle, whereas the macro trends have a longer life cycles. Thus, the types of forecasting we will be doing would be short term and long term. Short term forecasting is also known as fad forecasting. The fads are the styles which come and go very fast. So we are talking here about the trends that will emerge for the next 1 to 2 years. It therefore requires immediate forecasting techniques. It is used by product developers, merchandisers, and production managers to give style direction and shape the collections for the future, that is the near future only, 1 to 2 years. For short-term forecasting, most apparel companies subscribe to one or more services of such forecasting agencies, whose job is to scan the market and report on the developments in the color, textiles, and style directions of the future, that is near 1 to 2 years only. On the other hand, long-term forecasting. Long-term forecasting looks much further ahead into the future, usually 5 to 10 years. These are the big picture trends that define the fashion business, such as changes in demographics, lifestyle, and the way that clothes are made and sold. It is used by executives for corporate planning purposes. It is also used for marketing managers to position products in the marketplace in relationship to competition. This is much more effective by the use for the companies into manufacturing and the supply chain. So what does a fashion forecaster do? We are calling them the astrologers of the fashion industry. So what is the role of a fashion designer in fashion forecasting? What they do is they examine and predict. So the astrologers have lots of data with them, but what does the fashion forecaster have? They usually forecast by examining new emerging trends across all the industries to see how they may influence future trends. Today, forecasting is done not only for the fashion trends. Each and every industry is using forecast, be it the market forecast, be it the business forecast. They are using it for a better and effective way of business. These include new developments across the creative industries also. Of course, they also take into consideration of what's going to happen in the world and the cultural shifts to predict for short as well as long-term forecasting. So after examining, what do? They predict. What do they predict? They predict the styles. The styles would be the silhouettes of the garments, the colors, textures, fabrics, graphic prints, patterns, footwear, and accessories, etc. They predict this for the forthcoming trends that we see on the runway and in the retail stores from season to season. Because once the customer comes to a store or once the customer goes to see a show, they expect something new that would be there in the next season. Fashion forecasting revolves around a number of variables. It predicts future, and it is a field that revolves around predicting the future of a market. The trend forecasters work in every industry, as I told you earlier also, using data from past sales to anticipate future opportunities. It is not only what people are wearing, but it is about their buying behavior also. It is a field within the fashion industry, because fashion industry is creating clothes, is creating accessories from raw material to the end products. So it is a field within the field with predicting upcoming fashion trends that will spark consumer demand. So the fashion forecasters create 10 reports. They produce reports that we are talking about a journey into the future. So what does the fashion forecasting revolves around? It predicts future. Yes, we are talking about this since the beginning. It predicts future. But how does it predict the future? It predicts the future of a market through the examining of the past trends, the past sales, and then they anticipate the future opportunities. So it is a field within the field of fashion industry only that is concerned with predicting upcoming fashion trends that will spark the consumer's demand. Fashion forecasters produce trend reports after a lot of examination, research, and analysis. These reports help to create new clothes, accessories, and products for various brands. When we talk about the forecasting, for example, an astrologer who forecasts the future of the life of a person, he has some data in hand like the time and date of birth, the constellation placements in the sky. Using that data, what he does the mathematical calculations to predict the future. But when the forecasters start forecasting, what do they have? If they don't have any data, they need to collect the data. So it is a long process with methodological repeat. So it is a long process with organized methods to identify the basic facts about past trends and forecast. This is what they start researching with. Then next, they determine the causes of changes in the past. So certain trends were followed, certain trends were not. Some styles were accepted, some styles were rejected. So they also research the causes of the change in the past. They also determine after that the differences between past forecasts and the actual behaviors. That is the deviations from the forecast that was done. Now what they do is they analyze the factors likely to affect trends in future. Because once you understand the past, the human behavior is not likely to change much. Thus, looking at the past trends and the deviations, the forecasters analyze them and then they create the future trends. After that, these future trends are applied with tools and techniques like the magazines, the trend reports, the websites, which pay attention to the issues of accuracy and reliability. They follow the forecast continuously to determine reasons of significant deviations from expectations. Because they need to keep an eye regularly what people are buying, what they are not buying, what they are liking, what they are not. So that if there are any deviations from what the forecast has been done, that can be corrected and revised so that we can communicate it to the brands. Thus, there are not much of losses because the products would be created in advance according to the forecast. So if there are any deviations and can be seen through, they can be made changes and the losses can be taken care of. So how does fashion forecasting help the brands and the companies? It guides design and marketing strategies for fashion brands. They trend forecast through gathering information from catwalks to street styles. They analyze these data based on the economics and the lifestyle, and then they make the trend reports. After this, they repeat and then they make the trend reports. Fashion forecasting is a one-stop prediction shop to help companies learn what people will be buying in the future. So if I know my customer and I know that what he wants, then it will be much better for me to cater them and satisfy them. And once my consumer is satisfied, he or she will definitely come back to me. So there are agencies like WGSN who provide comprehensive reports and specialized data. At WGSN, they predict colors and trends up to 1 to 2 years ahead and will forecast the materials even further into the future. They provide trends with patterns and templates and also customize the reports according to the companies which they cater to. On this slide, you can see few examples of fashion forecasting agencies who have clients throughout the globe. In the previous slide, I spoke about WGSN, that is World Global Style Network, the Trendstop, Fashion Snoops, Edited, Stylus, Packlers Paris, Vinted, Trend Era, the Donager Group, Promosted, and there are many more catering to the forecasting for the brands, designers, the educational institutes, etc. On this slide, you can see one of the trends that have been accepted by the consumers in the spring summer of this year. You can see the leg gate trend, which was the high slits, daring cutouts, high thigh designs, adorned skirts and dresses by various designers. On this slide, you can actually see the designs from 3 collections of different brands and designers. On this slide, you can see the trend of the plunging deep V neckline. It made a return on the runways. Designers like Chanel, Gucci, Tom Ford reimagined this classic neckline and infused it with the modern sophistication. They were incorporated into dresses or tops. This V neckline added a touch of sensuality to the collections. The trends we saw on the previous 2 slides were of the Spring-Summer 24. This is the season right now going on, and all these predictions were made way ahead in time and then accepted by the designers and shown on the runways. On this slide, you can see another prediction of one of the key colors by WGSN for the spring-summer of the year 2025. And on the right hand side of the slide, you can see another forecast by Trend Senses about the patterns, the prints that are floral and the colors. Here's another example of the future forecast for the fall-winter of 25-26. This is by Moda Cable. On the left-hand side, you can see the silhouettes of the blouses for women's wear for the season 25-26 fall-winter and the detailing for the blouses with the sketches and the images. And on the right-hand side, you can see the patterns, the prints, the fabrics, the textures and the silhouettes, and these are again for the fall winter of 25-26. So we can say that this is a short-term forecast way ahead for the next year fall winter. And this is another showcase of autumn winter or fall winter 25-26 by View Publications. View Publications is another magazine that forecasts about textiles, styles, colors, accessories and the lifestyles and the styles that would be accepted by the consumers in future. There are numerous factors that influence the fashion trends that have to be kept in mind and studied by the fashion forecasters. First is cultural and social. The cultural changes combined with demographics, lifestyle, attitudes and behavior in the society involves shifts in lifestyles and reflect changes in generational cohorts. The cycles of the economy affect mass-scale purchasing decisions. For example, casual lifestyle, trend-resistant consumer will definitely affect the purchase decisions of himself or the others related. Next is the economic factors. Fashion has been subject to people's disposable incomes, that is, the income that is left after spending on the basic necessities. It is an important factor that affects the demand for fashion and the fashion products. A country's economy hugely impacts the fashion industry. People may avoid or delay buying them under adverse economic conditions, like unemployment due to global recession. During the global recession, we saw that people were spending mostly on the basic necessities rather than the luxurious items. Higher income leads to higher impulsive purchases, and that boosts the fashion industry. Next is technological advances. Technological advances affect the businesses and how one manufactures the products. Businesses need to keep up with the latest technology to sustain their customers. Once the manufacturing units update their manufacturing process, that leads to less production cost and time, which leads to more of profits through more of production. Retailers also need to invest in upgrading their technology. For example, the pandemic gave rise to online purchasing. Thus, one needs to understand the behavior of the consumer and the trend of the market. Even after the pandemic, people have got used to shopping online and are more shopping online in the comforts of their houses. Next is the environment. Today, we are talking about sustainability, but how do we achieve it? And the environmental factors that affect the fashion forecasting. The environmental factors are those which cannot be controlled. We cannot control the nature. We cannot control what is happening in the nature. So no one has a control over this, be it the manufacturers, wholesalers, distributors, or retailers of the fashion industry. One simply has to go with the flow. The businesses need to shape themselves to match public demands and the socio-economic conditions. For example, the recent pandemic that I spoke about earlier also, it has hugely impacted the fashion industry in various ways. Artificial intelligence is the talk of the town today. It is being used in every industry. It is being misused also. It is being liked by people, disliked by people. People are even fearing of artificial intelligence. But it is helping a lot. It is helping a lot in the forecasting business. It helps in collecting, organizing, and analyzing all types of data, which will help the designers and forecasters in predicting the trends with the information that AI has gathered from the various sources. A great example of AI is the app created by Kim Kardashian, that is Screenshot. It is the name of this app. It uses the AI image recognition, which helps the customer to find any type of dress of any price range within just an image or screenshot of it. This app does help in updating one's wardrobe without heading out of the house. So imagine in a country like India, which is rich in culture, has lots of colors, styles and fashion in every part of their country. It can differ from city to city. IBM or International Business Machine are working together to bring a new AI engine which will help them in forecasting or predicting the next big trend of the country, which will be relatable with style, color and sizes. Now we have understood what forecasting is, what role does a forecaster plays, the process of fashion forecasting, the factors that influence forecasting, and we have looked upon a few examples of forecasting for the near future also. But one thing we should understand is that the forecasts are rarely perfect. I'm not implying that they are wrong, but what we are predicting from the data but we are predicting for the people. Right? What they have in mind cannot be changed by the forecast. So the forecasting of the future involves a certain amount of uncertainty. Therefore, it is almost impossible to make a perfect prediction. Still, you see, it is not an uncertainty level of a very high percentage. There are so many companies you see are working for the fashion forecast and they are doing very well. So that means the data they collect, the information they collect is not all in vain. Yes, it does predict to a very high level. Forecasters know that they have to live with a certain amount of error, which is the difference between what is forecast and what actually happens. This is the reason they can continuously keep an eye on what is happening in the market, the deviations that occur, that are being taken care of continuously and are communicated to the various industries that these are the changes happening so that the companies can take care of it and accordingly plan their manufacture or the development of the products. Another principle of forecast is that forecasts are more accurate for groups or families of items. When items are grouped together, their individual high and low values can cancel each other out. In the group, if something is doing well and the another product is not doing so well of the group or the family, then if we look at the data altogether, the things that are doing well or are successful will obviously cancel out the low values of the another product of the same family. The data for a group of items can be stable even when individual items in the group are unstable. Consequently, one can obtain a higher degree of accuracy when forecasting for a group of items rather than for individual items. For example, you cannot expect the same degree of accuracy if you are forecasting sales of long sleeves hunter green polo shirts that you expect when forecasting sales of all polo shirts. Another principle of forecasting is that forecasters are more accurate for shorter than longer period of time. That means the short-term forecasting is more accurate than the long-term forecasting, because in the shorter time period, the forecast has a lower degree of uncertainty rather than in a longer period of time, where the changes can happen and there is a much more percentage of uncertainty. While we are talking about the fashion industry, we should understand that there are two seasons in the fashion industry. That is the spring summer and autumn winter or fall winter. We call it autumn winter, either autumn winter or fall winter. These are the collections that are shown at the fashion weeks in Paris, Milan, New York, London in every year's February and September. Fashion week informs the trends for the season, so collections must be shown early. Retail buyers need time to view the collections and decide which piece to go with, and then designers need time to manufacture the orders. Fashion editors also need time to select samples and shoot editorials for the seasons. Resort and pre-fall collections don't have their own fashion weeks, so brands often shoot them independently and send them out to the press. Others choose to hold their own presentations or shows. But basically, what the industry revolves around is two seasons, that is the spring summer and the autumn winter. On this slide, you can see the fashion calendar for this year, that is 2024. These are the fashion weeks that are going to happen from January to September and in the various fashion capitals of the world. The forecasting agencies have a lot of people working for them and they spend a lot of money in the tools and technology. How do they earn and what are their offerings to the companies? First is the consultancy. The consultancy to their clients. These companies work as consultants to large companies in analyzing the social trends that are affecting the consumer, and they advise the best ways to implement these strategies within the future consumer environment across the world, because they have clients across the world and their demands from country to country also differs due to the cultural changes that we spoke about in the factors that influence fashion forecasting. Then they help the brands in creating strategy packages. They can be either bespoke services or annual subscriptions. These assess performance against competitions, because once you understand the forecast, once you know the forecast, you can keep ahead of your competitors and you know the emerging trends of the market and the products as well, along with the consumer behavior. Another thing they provide is market research data. It is very important for the companies to understand the market, their competitors, their suppliers, and the consumer behavior, so that they can keep up in the market and have a better share. Next is the innovation and maintaining the cutting edge. In unstable markets, it is difficult for businesses and their brands to retain their authenticity, integrity, and vitality. These consultancies advise their clients on maintaining innovation within their organizations so that they can come up with new innovative ideas and can be unique from others. Forecasting mostly revolves around the market and the consumer. Understanding changing consumer needs and behavior is very vital for today's business. It can be any kind of business, from creating vehicles to garments to cutlery. So, what do we do as fashion forecasters? We visualize. We visualize the key trends, bringing them to life and engaging into meaningful trend reports. The visualization of insight is key to the effective communication also. Forecasting is used in almost every area of business today. As I told you earlier, be it the manufacturing of the vehicles, to the manufacturing of cutlery, to the home furnishings. Accurate analysis of consumer trends is very important in forming brand direction and development in the creation of relevant products and services. Ultimately, it ensures the success. Trend forecasting has fast become one of the most important weapons over time in a retailer's competitive market. In a fast-moving and crowded marketplace, identifying what's hot, what's not, is crucial in staying one step ahead of the competition. And whosoever is in the business definitely wants to be ahead of everyone. Only the fashion forecasters that do the business of fashion forecasting and cater to the companies. The brands and the designers also do their own type of forecasting and use their own tools and techniques for forecasting. The basics would remain the same. Whatever we have learned from the earlier slides would remain the same. The influencing factors would remain the same. The tempo would remain the same. The patterns, the study of the patterns would remain the same. But some brands forecast on their own also. And it depends on the size of the company and its target market. But there are several brands who forecast the trends. With the trend forecasting agency, they take their help, as I told you earlier, by going to fashion shows. Fashion shows also set the trends. They are a very important source of the trends upcoming, because all the designers study the forecast, study the past also, and they create the collections. by looking at the influencers. Today, social media has become a very important part of our lives. Everyone is on the social media, and there are influencers on the media who affect the choices of the consumers. Today, trend forecasters follow these influencers on social media also to understand the behavior of the consumers. By looking at the other industries, also the brands forecast the trends. Small independent fashion designers might stay away from trend forecasting altogether. They might create their own designs, and they might be unique based on certain arts, films, or nature. Most trend forecasters rely on a combination of top-down and bottom-up forecasting, plus an intimate knowledge of fashion scene and personal intuition to make predictions about the future of fashion. On this slide, you can see the certain websites that can help you out with the fashion forecast. As a student or a designer, you can take the help of these websites. One of them is Adobe Blog. It publishes a visual trend report annually since past few years. Color and Surface Cotton Trend Forecast is a free source but requires registration to use. Color Hive as a color forecasting group is fee-based, but blog offers free content and updates on most essential news, views and color palettes. Faith Popcorn's Color Reserve Agency. It is for identifying consumer trends. Varied Focus, but the trend blog has articles that may be relevant to the designer in understanding the market and the consumer pattern. Getty Images. In addition to stock images, Getty Images provides articles on upcoming trends. Intercolor is a platform for color research and development. Pattern Curator provides a service to those who design, create, or manufacture patterned products. Trendstop Blog is a future, fashion, and lifestyle trend forecasting agency. Trend Tablet is a site run by Litwak Edelkort, a well-known trend forecaster. These are not the only ones. These are few examples that can help. Most of the agencies take a fee to offer their trend reports or their analysis. They have different packages for companies, for designers, and they have packages for the educational institutions also. These are the references that have been used in creation of this content. Thank you.